In this video, we are going to add more muscle information on our character's body. Now, before I do that, I do want to tweak a few things here. I want to check my 9 heads guide again. So I'm going to go ahead and make it visible. And I think I want to adjust the feet area here so it better aligns with the last head here. So using my grab brush, I'm just going to go ahead and lift this up a bit. If you want to lift something this large of a mesh, make sure that you have enough intensity on your grab brush and make sure you got a big brush size if you're moving an entire body element here. Alright. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hide my 9 heads again. I think we're ready to begin with going over the muscles. I think I want to go ahead and adjust the feet even further. Maybe move this down a bit. Lift it up. Okay, just looking from afar, see if there's anything else I need to kind of tweak around. Alright, and now I'm on object mode. I'm going to go hit the tab key. I'm on my edit mode and select the faces for my hands here. And I'm going to separate the hands from the body. Press P to separate. And I'm going to go to my feet area. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just go ahead and separate this feet again. Press P and separate by selection. So we're separating the feet and the hands from the body because we are going to just need more geometry for those parts. So we have to detach them again. I'm going to hide the hair. That way we are just focusing on the body. Go to a scope mode. Let's go to our remeasure and let's go ahead and bring down our voxel size to 0.017. I'm gonna go ahead and just bring it up a tad bit more. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and set it to 0.05. Alright, now I'm gonna go to my smooth here and just going to smooth out the abs. Okay, onto my clay strip brush, just gonna add more of the forms for the clavicle area here and onto the chest area. So what we're doing right now is just we are creating those extra primary forms in the body. We already have our basic shape and some of the details already, but we're just gonna further add more details, more information here just to better bring it to life and just reveal some more of the muscle fibers. So because our character is going to be quite built and defined, and so we have to go over the muscles again. If you're probably just doing a regular built bulky character who's not really defined, then this type of details probably just fine enough. You don't have to go over the muscles again. But since this character here is this orc here, he is pretty massive and he's also firm, and that means we have to go over each of the muscles again to further define it. So as you can see there, I use my draw sharp brush to just carve in the indication of where the chest kind of connects. So remember, the chest here just connects to this actually connects to the upper arm bone, okay? And then we have, of course, our deltoids here. So it's kind of a bit on top of the chest. Now onto the ab area. Going to apply more information on the abs. Using the draw sharp to just carve this in. Going back and forth between using the clay strip brush, the draw sharp, and smoothing. So what I like to think about here when I'm using the clay strip brush is just adding the clay around the areas where we have our carved areas here. So around those carved areas, using the clay strip brush, I add a little bit of volume around those areas. And then by doing that, we're going to be able to smooth this out, and it's going to give our character's ab more of a defined look to it. You see me there, I'm creating adding the clay on top here and also here, and then just kind of ignoring the middle part. That way we got a little dip in there, but you don't want too much gap, otherwise it will look really strange. But yeah, I'm doing that way we could have more of a abs that's revealing, popping out. And then kind of lift that up. And as we add more and more information, you are going to use the grab brush to just kind of relocate some parts of the muscle, relocate some parts of the edges of the abs. Because once you add more and more information, the more you will see which areas here needs to be adjusted. And as you can see there, using the clay strip brush, I like to add some breakups there. So I have, the ab area. Okay, I have the ab area here. And then what I do is I like to add a little bit of breaks here and there. Okay. That way it doesn't look like a robotic ab. See that nice break there? And then we got this nice break. And that's me just using the clay strip brush. And adding a little bit of the shape here around the pubic area, above the pubic area. And then onto the obliques, further defining the abs that we already have, the obliques that we already have. And then here we are, just reapplying the saw teeth muscle that we kind of somewhat have. It's already kind of subtly showing, but we're just kind of drawing over it already. Just drawing over it again and further redefining the shapes that we already have. So usually you see 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. Okay. And they're just kind of meeting each other right there in the middle. So just keep that in mind right there. Just creating those oblique muscle. And here we are doing the lats. So this right here, this muscle is going to be the lat area. And this here is going to be the serratus anterior. Once again, you don't really need to necessarily know the scientific name, but I just try to remember them because that's the way I learned. That's the way that I'm able to memorize these muscles that are here. But these are the oblique here. And then we have this right here. There's the lats. Kind of going over here. Alright, now onto the back part of our character here. You could see the lats giving that V-shaped look to it. And you could see from the side, you still see a little bit of the sawtooth muscle here. And yeah, we have the obliques going. If this is going to help you, I suggest that you look at some pictures, some references of Eckershey. You could look at some bodybuilder photos, but also I recommend that you also study some of the anatomy photos where you could see the human body without the skin on top. So you could see the actual muscle fibers and how they flow and how they connect. So onto the upper back here, just adding a little break. So you can see I'm not just creating something that looks like this for the traps. So the way I do this is I add a little bit of break here and there. And I like to just kind of add this little wheel just to kind of indicate that there is indeed a scapula here where the bony landmark exists there. And just adding a little bit of carved and onto the traps here, trying to further divide the middle part here, and just smoothing it. So yeah, we have the traps muscle right there, and we got this nice little dip here. Okay, and we have two muscles that are predominantly showing at the upper back. Okay, so those two muscles there. And sometimes you're probably gonna see a little bit of muscle here also. This nice little muscle underneath and between the traps, and also the upper back muscle here. And yeah, just thinking about the deltoid here, you see me, I kind of added a little bit more shape there. And yeah, just make sure that as you add more and more details, it's really more important to look at some real life references. Because remember, we're going for more of a realism. And so the amount of bodybuilder photos that you can find in Google Images is pretty helpful. And you can see I have added some of the spinal muscles there. So you're really gonna see this muscle on a really built person. And then we got this nice little bit of shape here also going, just to add a little bit of break on the back. Okay, and connecting the muscle of the back onto the bottom, the butt area, upper part of the butt. And I like to, as you probably already could see, I love to use the clay strip brush to just add the information on the muscle fibers. And then I like to use the regular draw brush if I see that there's some areas here that need to be bulked up. Then I use that type of brush to just kind of thicken up some areas, volumize some areas. I'm using that right now, the draw brush. Okay, on to the front again. Going back to the torso at the front. Just smooth this out. There you go. And I don't really want it to be high the intensity because I don't want to melt down the details that I have. So definitely mess around with your smoothing brush. You want to smooth it, but not too smooth where you're getting rid of the muscle information. So definitely play around with the intensity there and smooth that out. Smooth it. Right, so you can see that it's definitely a lot more defined than we had previously. Okay, now going to this part of the body, going to further add more information on the arm area. So the way I'm sculpting this is the way the fibers flow on the muscles here. When you take out the skin of the character, think about the accoutré underneath, and the fiber is gonna flow this way, and that's the direction that I actually sculpt, the way the fibers flow. So that's why I'm telling you guys to use also some accoutré references in front of you. All right. And as you can see there, I have created the muscle fiber also on the back part of the deltoid. So we got the back part, and then we have the side part, and then we have the front part. So really, if you look at the crochet of the deltoid area, there's gonna be 3 parts to it. Okay, and onto the deltoid in the front here and onto the side. Just kind of really trying to add the definition here that we need for our deltoid area. So right now it may look a little bit to enhance the muscles, but later on when we smooth it, it's going to look a lot more natural. And I use the glacier brush to use a combination of pulling out the mesh and then sometimes pushing in the mesh. That way we get a little bit of variance of depth onto the deltoid area. And you can see here I added a little bit of depth here also, kind of pushing the clay using the clay strip brush. This right here is there's this clavicle here, and then we have this bony landmark, which is gonna be a part of the scapula. So we have the deltoid. We have the deltoid here, and then it's just kind of tucked in right there. And then we have, this is going to be our bicep. And underneath that bicep, we do have this, let me change the color. We have this muscle, which is the branchialis muscle, but it's kind of underneath the bicep, but a little bit of it is showing, and it's also, you could see a little bit of it here also, but yeah, you're gonna see it on each side of the bicep, that branchialis muscle. And right here, just thinking of that underarm muscle. And as I mentioned before, we do have the bicep here, and then this, I try to add a little bit of details here to indicate the tendons of the bicep. Got the bicep here, and of course we got a little bit of this muscle underneath the bicep that's just kind of peeking out, and then we got this underarm muscle, and of course this is gonna be, this right here is gonna be our tricep area, which we're going to go over later. And then this right here is going to be our flexor muscle. And then we got this here, which is our extensor muscles. So just thinking of those shapes as you're doing the underarm of the character. If this is your first time sculpting a detailed character, don't feel so, I guess I would say just set more of a realistic goal, because if you are doing a character that's detailed, really detailed for the first time, it's not gonna turn out the way you want it. So just be easy on yourself and just be proud that you're able to get through the tutorial, and then the things that you have learned in this tutorial, you could apply it to creating a brand new character, and I guarantee that the next character you're going to create is going to be better than the first one that you have made. So yeah, it's the same with me. When I first started trying to do muscles, it didn't do that well. I wish I could show it to you, but I was just so frustrated that I just deleted the file. That was like a long time ago when I tried to do my very first realistic character. But once you get to learn more and more of the anatomy, you will see that your sculpting will be much better. The way you create realistic characters will highly improve. But yeah, it takes time. It just requires a lot of patience to get to the level that you want to get to. And this right here was a little long, so you just need to grab a brush to move that up, the elbow. And this, I could kind of make this pop out a little bit. So yeah, when you are doing the wrist area, just gonna think of this shape right there. So you got this nice little angle, okay? And then on here you got the elbow, and then you got this forearm area. So you can see there that I have added this elbow there and kind of tucked in. So remember, we have this ulna bone, and then we kind of have a little bit of this showing there. And this, we have our extensor muscle right here. And then we also have, of course, our tricep area right here showing. So we got our tricep right there. We got our bicep right here. And then we got this little nice muscle on the wrist area that gives it a little twist feel to it, to our wrist. And then we have our big mass right here of muscle, which allows you this right here, which is called the extensor digitorum. It has this muscle connects onto the tendons, connect to our fingers, which allow our fingers to move, extend. All right. And then we also gonna have, like I said, this is gonna be more of the side extensor muscle. And then kind of right in here, we got this nice little muscle, which you can't really see it unless you're super defined. But this here is going to also drive the pinky, allow the pinky to extend. But a lot of the muscles on the forearm, unless the character is really defined, then a lot of regular humans, you don't really see these individual fibers on their forearm. A lot of them just look like kind of like one shape, one big shape, right? Even for those heavyweight bodybuilders, you're not gonna see each individual muscles like that. But it's kind of good to understand why they are there, what muscles are there. That way you kind of understand how to add details to it that will make sense. The fibers and the direction of the fibers will make sense if you kind of understand where the what muscles are actually in place on the forearm. And here, just thinking of the tricep area. So remember, we got 3 heads for the tricep. We have this, we have this one, and then of course we have this right here. Yeah, the tendons of the triceps, they attach to the surface of the humerus, which is the upper arm bone. It's good to kind of know where these muscles attach. That way you will know when the sculpt should end. Especially muscles that are very prominent on the body, such as the triceps. And further making the elbow a little bit bonier. And yeah, make sure that you're looking at all views as you do this. And yeah, this right here is just the bony landmark for the upper arm bone. So we got our arm bone right here. Okay, this is one of the condyles for the upper arm bone. And then of course we have this, which is the ulna bone. It's kind of like holding on to that like a trench, like a wrench. And of course we got the other bony landmark here that we see that's predominantly showing right on our area for our pinky finger. Okay, on to the neck area. Going to create a little bit more forms here. And then just smoothing out the arms. And you can see how nice this is because when we are smoothing, some of those fibers still remain in place. So that really gives our skin that stretched skin-like look. So we got the muscles there. We got the defined look because some of those fibers are still staying there even though we smooth it. So this is the power of just using the clay strip brush. This is the reason why I like the clay strip brush, because it allows you to create the realistic muscle fibers on a defined body. And kind of fix this, is a little too deep, so don't want to exaggerate too much in that. Alright, and the back is looking good. Probably could do a little bit more here on the deltoid area. Maybe make this a little bit of bulkier. And you can see I have added this indication of just where the deltoid is connecting. So this right here, we have our scapula, and our deltoid kind of connects at the border, a little bit at the border. This via tendon is this little thing that I've added is just a tendon, and then we have the actual muscle. So remember, the muscles are connected to the bones via tendons. All right. Okay, just smooth that. Carve that in, further define that. You don't want the fibers, the muscle here to be too deep, and then if you look at the abs, it's not that deep. So you want to make sure that it's either kind of equal, the definition here, or you could make this a little deeper and then this a little bit more subtle, because it's kind of hard to find somebody with soft abs and all of a sudden they got really defined obliques. Alright, it's coming along for the upper body, for our primary forms for upper body.